Hello, good day. My name is Quinifol P. Anzano, and for today we are going to tackle about the operational provision of this manual, Customs Memorandum Order number 22 Series 2010. So let's start. Operational Provision. Section 13. Statutory Provisions on Entrance and Clearance. The provisions of Section 1001 to 1025 of the Tariff and Customs Code of the Philippines, as amended in entrance and clearance of vessels, are deemed incorporated in this manual. Section 14. Pre-arrival. Notice of arrival with estimated time of arrival. The shipping agent or representative of any vessel engaged in foreign trade entering any of the Philippine ports of an entry. The Customs Inspector or E2M OIC of the Piers and Inspection Division Base Service Section shall perform the following functions. First, we have the electronically verify the vessel registry number or principal and other vessel information through Client Profile Registration System or CPRS. Second, input the estimated time of arrival in the E2M Customs system. Third, encode the time and date in the system and affix his signature on the hard copy of the notice of arrival. And fourth, furnish the customs boarding team a copy of the process notice of arrival or NOA. The assignment of customs boarding team. The following customs personnel shall be the members of the customs boarding team. We have the customs senior boarding officer, customs inspector, and customs guards. The submission of advance electronic manifest before arrival of vessels engaged in foreign trade through E2M customs system and penalties. The submission of an electronic copy of inward foreign manifest and the electronic copy of consolidated cargo manifest must be done through any of the value-added service providers or VASPS accredited by the VOC. The cut-off time for a manifest submission is calculated from the submitted estimated date and time arrival using the VOC gateway service clock. Registration of e-manifest. The system automatically registers a manifest in the E2M Customs if the manifest meets the submission deadline. For late submission, the first offense, we have 10,000 pesos, second offense, 20,000 pesos, third offense, 30,000 pesos, and for non-compliant submission is 30,000 pesos. Section 15. Arrival. Documents or permits. First, quarantine certificate for incoming vessels from a foreign port. Entry of vessels from any port or place outside of the Philippines shall be not permitted until they have obtained a quarantine certificate issued under the authority of the Bureau of Quarantine. No person shall be allowed to board or leave the vessel before they are cleared by the Bureau of Quarantine, except the pilot who is governed by the quarantine regulations in such contingencies. The certificate shall be a part of the required documents to be received by the customs senior boarding officer from the master of the vessel. No quarantine permit shall be required for the discharge of regularly manifested cargo, including animals, plants, unless otherwise required by the law or regulations. Second, entrance of vessel from a foreign port. Upon arrival of a vessel from a foreign port, VOC OPM Form No. 9 or oath of entering vessel from a foreign port with customs documentary stamp duly accomplished by the master in 4 copies shall be presented to the office of the customs clearance officer within 24 hours. 3 documents to be produced by master upon entry of vessel. The following documents properly accomplished shall be submitted by the master to the Customs Senior Boarding Office. We have quarantine certificate or pratik, clearance of visa from last port of call, original, and 4 copies of inward foreign manifest duly signed by the master. 3 copies each of the following: crew list, passenger list for aliens as required by immigration law enforced in the Philippines, copy of original duplicate of bills of lading, bonded store list, narcotics and dangerous drugs list, ship store list, mail list, firearms and ammunition list, cruise declaration list, parcel list, shipping articles and register of the vessel of the Philippines Registry. Through cargo manifest, if any, which shall be deposited to the customs inspector and shall be returned to the master prior to departure to other ports, and also cargo storage plan or hatch list. If passenger vessel, 3 copies of disembarking passengers list and their baggage declaration. The Customs Senior Boarding Officer shall after carefully compare the copies with the original manifest, stamp each of such manifest on the last page thereof with a rubber stamp provided for the purpose and verify that the necessary information required in accordance with Section 12, Item Number 4 hereto is contained therein. 4. Inward Foreign Manifest or IFM and Consolidated Cargo Manifest or CCM contents. The hard copy of the Inward Foreign Manifest required to be submitted by the master of the vessel to the boarding officer shall contain the following information: bill of lading number, marks and numbers of cartons, drums, boxes, crates, and other forms of protective packaging for brick bulk, container and seal numbers is containerized the initials FCL if full container load and LCL if less container load, number of packages, kind of packages, cartons, boxes, crates, drums, contents of discrimination of cargo, shipper, consignee, gross weight in metric tons, measurement in cubic meters, port of origin, notified party, distribution of Inward Foreign Manifest, IFM hard copies. The Inward Foreign Manifest shall be distributed to the following offices. Original copy shall be distributed to Peers and Inspection Division or PID or equivalent office. 1 copy of Commission on Audit Resident Auditor through the Office of the Commissioner, 1 copy of Intelligence Group, and 1 copy of Assessment and Operations Monitoring Group. The permits of discharge and lading of cargo, unless the vessel has been put in distress, the Customs Senior Boarding Officer shall, upon placing the vessel under the Customs Surveillance and Control, issue a general permit. Such permit, however, shall not constitute authority for the loading of export cargo or delivery of import cargo at the ship's side without the required entries or permits as the case may be. The general permit shall be endorsed by the customs inspector assigned on board the vessel mentioned in the permit at the back thereof, showing whether all import cargoes have been discharged at the port or not. Such permit shall be included in his report after the termination of his assignment on board vessel. Endorsement of permits. The following permits shall be endorsed on the reverse side thereof: the general permit, the ship side permit, permits for the sending of special consignments of cargo to the piers or to the parcel section, permits issued by the Deputy Collector for Operations or its equivalent office for the transfer of cargo from one vessel to another. On the same permit and directly under the preceding endorsement, the receiving customs inspector shall make an endorsement to the effect that he received the cargoes on board the vessel to which he is assigned. Shipside permits. Shipside permit, when duly processed and approved by the Collector of Customs or the Deputy Collector for Operations or its equivalent office, as the case may be, is an authority for the customs inspector assigned on a vessel to allow the discharge of cargoes specified on the permit at shipside until lighters unguarded. Three kinds of shipside permits. We have regular shipside permit. It is issued by the Deputy Collector for Operations or its equivalent office as now presently required for all cargoes which belong to the categories of regular shipside cargoes under existing regulations. And we have special shipside permit, when cargoes do not belong to regular shipside cargoes such as ballast, garbage, provisions, watering, bunkering, vessel parts, or repair. The ship's agents has to get the authority from the Collector of Customs prior to the processing and approval by the Deputy Collector for Operations or its equivalent office. Next, we have temporary shipside permit. It's a written authority to discharge cargoes at shipside until later per order of the Collector of Customs. The permit shall be forwarded directly to the customs inspector of the carrying vessel without any entry being filed. This issued only as an emergency measure so as not to delay ship operations. This permit is also issued on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays when there are no offices to process the regular shipside permit. Several conditions are usually imposed in this issuance of this temporary permit, among which are pending issuance of shipside permits. Pending issuance of shipside delivery permit, the customs inspector on board may receive written requests from consignees, countersigned by the ship agents and approved by the Collector of Customs, that certain designated goods be discharged into carriers. Under such circumstances, the same procedure is enjoined as in the case of shipside delivery, except that the consignment shall be held alongside the vessel unguarded. Transfer note or boat note shall be made in sextuplicate by the customs inspector on board. For cargoes delivered at shipside, the transfer note shall show the following: name of vessel and registry number, name of lighter, name of broker and or consignee, shipside permit number, marks and numbers, kinds and description of goods, time and date, lighter left alongside the vessel, names and signatures of customs inspector, customs guard in charge of lighter, and the patron of lighter. Any other information and or remarks such as conditions set forth on the shipside permit by the Collector of Customs. The copies of the prepared transfer note shall be distributed as follows. Boarding sequence: the vessel upon arrival from a foreign port at the port of entry and after the issuance of quarantine certificate or pratic by the Bureau of Quarantine shall be boarded in the following order. First, Customs Senior Boarding Officer, Customs Inspector, and Customs Guards assigned to the vessel. Second, Immigration Officer. Third, the Department of Agriculture or Plant or Animal Fisheries Quarantine representative as required. And fourth, other agencies or persons authorized by the Collector of Customs. The Customs Boarding Team on a foreign vessel. The Customs Senior Boarding Officer shall place the vessel under customs control and surveillance by posting a customs inspector and customs guards thereon. Second, no person shall be permitted to go on board such vessel except the pilot, consul, health officials, immigration and customs officers, without the permission of the customs inspector on board of a vessel. Third, no tugboat, rowboat, or other watercraft shall be allowed to go alongside the vessel to ferry any person to or from the vessel without a permit from the collector of customs or his duly authorized representative. And fourth, the unauthorized tugboats, rowboats, and other watercraft shall keep away from such vessel engaged in foreign trade at a distance of not less than 50 meters. The actual time of arrival of foreign vessel through A2M customs system. After boarding formalities, the A2M OIC of Piers and Inspection Division Bay Service Section shall input the actual time of arrival from the boarding information sheet submitted by the customs boarding officer. A submission of supplement cargo manifest is treated as non-compliant or late submission and shall be subject to penalty as started in Part 2, Section 14C of this manual. Supplemental manifest, e-manifest must be submitted in hard copies and electronic form within the period prescribed in CAO 6 Series 2007 and CMO 37 Series 2009. Otherwise, the shipment subject to the supplemental manifest will be considered unmanifested and subject to seizure proceedings. Unloading of cargoes. First, containerized. Discharging a containerized cargoes shall be authorized only upon issuance of a general permit by the customs senior boarding officer. Thereafter, unloading of container shall commence. During unloading, the customs inspector or customs guard on board foreign vessel shall verify the container numbers or against the discharging sequence. The customs inspector or customs guards shall check or inspect if container seals are intact, and submit discharging report shall be submitted upon completion of the unloading operation. Second, we have the bulk and break bulk. The clearance of cargoes for bulk and break bulk cargoes or shipments such as liquids, chemicals, petroleum products, and all other cargo shipped in bulk or break bulk, the duties and taxes of which are normally determined by weight, wood, steel, coal, grain, etc., shall be governed by pertinent regulations, more particularly CAO number 3 series 2010 and CMO number 18 series 2010 on procedure to the bulk and break bulk cargo clearance enhancement program mandated under Administrative Order number 243 as amended by AO 243A. The said CAO and CMO allow under certain conditions the filing of import entry, lice, and payment of proper duties, taxes, and other fees prior to the arrival to the vessel in the Philippines port of destination, and immediately cause the discharge and withdrawal of the same from customs premises and or custody, provided that the declaration in import or entry lies are confirmed by the load post survey report, and upon presentation of the proof of payment of duties, taxes, and other fees, as well as compliance with other prerequisites for valid importation. Unloading of cargoes. Unloading of bulk and break bulk cargoes at shipside. Shipside discharge of cargoes shall be authorized only upon presentation of necessary shipside permit issued by the Deputy Collector for Operations upon receipt of the shipside permit. the customs inspector assigned on board shall verify the subject shipment covered by the shipside permit against the inward foreign manifest as to the correctness of marks and numbers, quantity, kind of merchandise, weight, and etc. Issue transfer note in sextuplicate covering the shipment mentioned on the permit, setting forth the conditions and/or requirements imposed by the collector of customs on the face of the shipside permit. Assign a customs guard to check the shipside permit so that only those authorized to be discharged are unloaded, and assign a regular customs guard to underguard the lighter with the cargoes if the permit so stipulates. And when a bulk cargoes are to discharge onto lighters, the customs inspector shall not allow any cargo to be unloaded without first obtaining the tone or inch immersion table to the lighter from the petrol. Duties of customs inspectors relative to import cargo. Unless the collector of customs permits their discharge into lighter or carriers to subserve public interest, all vessels arriving from foreign ports shall discharge their import cargo at official designated piers, and all cargoes from vessels that go alongside the piers, except hereinafter specified, shall be discharged thereon, and no check or accounting shall be undertaken by the customs inspector on board of a vessel, except to satisfy himself that the cargo is actually thereunto discharged, and that the ship's checker is actually checking the cargo being discharged. And all import cargoes discharged at the shipside shall be checked by customs guards detailed for that purpose by the customs inspector on board, and for each carrier the said customs inspector shall accomplish a transfer note showing the quantity and description of the cargo in each lighter or carrier. A transfer note shall always accompany such cargo, and information regarding damaged cargo shall be noted in the column of remarks. The customs inspector on board the vessel shall permit also shipside delivery upon receipt of the shipside delivery permit, provided transportation facilities for the cargo described therein are available. He shall detail a customs guard to take an accurate account of the number of packages and their marks and numbers. In cases where a discrepancy occurs between the check of the customs guard and that of the other checkers on board as to the number of packages discharged into a carrier of shipside delivery, the customs inspector on board shall detail the same customs guard to accompany the carrier and recheck the cargo as it is being discharged at the consignee's warehouse or wharf. And the delivery of cargo at the shipside is the most important duty of a customs inspector. He shall take every precaution to avoid mistakes. He shall read every permit carefully to ascertain the kind of quantity of the cargo that he has the authority to deliver. And the customs inspector on board may also receive written permits from the collector of customs or deputy collector for operations to send cargo for transfer to bonded warehouses, in which case he shall cause the goods to be checked by marks and numbers. Transfer notes in sextuplicates shall be duly accomplished, and the original and duplicate thereof delivered to the customs guard, in whose charge the consignment will be sent to the bonded warehouse located in the permit. And special permits are issued to send certain designated cargoes to the customs house. Under these circumstances, the goods, together with the transfer note covering such as cargoes, shall be sent under guard to the base service or PID or its equivalent office, and the packages manifested as parcels and those containing valuable goods if the carrying vessel did not dock alongside the pier wharf shall be sent to the base service section, PID or its equivalent office, on the boarding officer's launch if possible, if not on the agent's launch underguarded. The customs duties of customs inspectors relative to import cargo. The parcel listed articles shall be properly accomplished on BC Form 174. Accompanying transfer notes shall be accomplished by giving the marks of numbers and names of consignee. Goods from foreign port may be transferred directly from the carrying vessel to another vessel engaged in the coastwise or foreign trade upon receipt of a written permission from the Collector of Customs. Detailed instructions in regard to such cargo are given in sections 17 and 18 of this manual. And importations of arms and ammunition shall be discharged immediately from the vessel with proper transfer notes to be sent to and receipted at the Customs Police Division for safekeeping and for proper disposition. Goods remaining on board any vessel after the expiration of the period for discharge and not reported for transit or transshipment to another port may be unladen by the customs authorities and stored at the vessel's expense. Customs inspector must see to it that all cargoes destined for the port must be discharged at the port unless otherwise permitted by the collector to remain on board unguarded if the vessel should clear for other local ports. The instruction of customs inspectors relative to carriers receiving port cargo. No cargoes shall discharge at shipside into open carriers except those authorized for delivery thereat under existing customs rules and regulations. All other cargoes shall be discharged into secured lighters capable of being locked and sealed with customs seals. And carriers alongside the vessel having cargo that is under customs supervision shall not be permitted to ship another vessel to receive cargo unless authorized by the Collector of Customs or the Deputy Collector for Operations of the port. And empty carriers shall not be permitted to lie at night alongside a government pier or a vessel moored thereto, or a vessel anchored in the harbor, or be attached to such piers or vessels by cables or ropes, or be attached to partly loaded carriers which may be alongside or fastened to such pier or vessel with import or export cargo, nor to carriers brought alongside to receive import cargo or discharge export cargo while the cargo on the pier or vessel is being worked at night. A laden or partially laden carriers at shipside containing import cargo shall not be permitted to leave the vessel without permission from the customs inspector on board, except in cases of emergency. In such circumstances, they shall be locked and sealed the place under guard. All merchandise and other movable articles on board a vessel not included in a cargo manifest or ship stores shall be included in the list of ship stores. If not so included at the time of boarding, they shall be checked. A supplementary list prepared and then sealed as part of the ship store. And the customs inspector shall, as soon as practicable after a vessel has been placed in discharge, verify by personal inspection the seal of the ship stores which may be broken. Ships' firearms, except in unusual cases, shall not be placed under seal, but a check shall be taken of them, which shall be verified before the vessel sails to ensure that no arms have been unlawfully landed. And a ship stores be discharged under the same conditions as other cargo, but the written permissions of the quarantine officer shall be presented to the customs inspector before the discharge is permitted. Upon the receipt of the permit or approved application for the transfer of ship store directly from one vessel to another of the same line, the customs inspector on board shall send it under customs with transfer note. An access of supply in ships store in vessel arriving from foreign ports and all articles purchased abroad for sale on board a vessel as salon stores or supplies are dutiable, but all ship stores and salon stores or supplies not in excess of the proper requirements of the vessel and her voyage outside of the Philippines shall not be deemed dutiable. Unloading of cargoes at dockside. The import cargoes, all cargoes discharged at dockside from a vessel shall not be accounted for by the customs inspector. However, a customs guard on each working hatch must see to it that the ship's checker is on board, making a tally for each sling, and if a sling goes down without a tally, the customs guard must stop the discharge from the hatch until such time that the checker does his job correctly. Passengers, baggage, parcels, and crew personnel effects. The customs inspector shall cause the immediate discharge of all baggage, parcel, cargoes, and articles. The customs inspector shall remind the chief officer of the parcel of the vessel if necessary. If baggage and parcels are to be discharged into a carrier in the stream, the customs inspector shall assign a customs guard to underguard such baggage and parcels of the office of the Bay Service Section, and for purposes of determining whether in cargo in entrusted shipments of merchandise or articles from abroad be included in parcel list. PC Form number 74 here under is the criteria. And Section 16, Departure. Documents or permit. Documents required for exportation. In general, export declaration, commercial invoice, packing list, export permit are the documents that needed. In additional documents required, CVW shipments, transfer note, certificate of identification, and certificate of inspection and loading, visa shipments, visa transfer note and visa tally sheet, provincial loading, transit cargo manifest, constructive warehousing and immediate exportation, previous import entry and internal revenue declaration, re-exportation and immediate bond and transshipment exportation permit, and special permit to load, letter requests from shipping lines, and list of containers intended for loading. Inspector certificate of lading or report of customs inspector on board. The inspector's certificate of lading is accomplished by the customs inspector on board a carrying vessel for all conventional export cargoes loaded into vessels. The inspector's certificate of lading shall be accomplished in 5 copies and signed by the customs inspector on board vessel. He shall submit the original copy of the inspector's certificate of lading together with the working copies of the export declaration or permits covered by the report to the export division or processing office or its equivalent office concerned within 5 working days after the departure of the carrying vessel to which the conventional export cargoes are loaded. Customs clearance of foreign. For purposes of clearance of a vessel, the following documents shall be presented to the PID clearance section prior to the issuance of clearance. First, we have the BOC OPM Form number 12, Outward Foreign Manifest, 4 copies, 1 original copy, and 3 photocopies. The BOC OPM Form number 10, Oath of Master and Manifest and Clearance for Foreign Port, 4 copies, 1 original copy with customs documentary stamp, and 3 photocopies. BOC OPM Form number 11, Oath of Master to Foreign Vessel Clearing Without Passengers, 4 copies, 1 original copy with customs documentary stamp, and 3 photocopies. BOC OPM Form number 2, Clearance of Vessel to a Foreign Port, 2 copies. First, original copy, customs copy with customs documentary stamp. Second, original copy, Master of Vessels copy with original seal and signature of the Collector of Customs or his duly authorized representative. The BOC OPM Form number 3, Clearance of Customs Inspector assigned on board in 3 copies. First copy for clearance officer, second copy for the shipping agent, and third copy for the customs inspector on board. BC Form number 88, Statistic Supplements in 4 copies, Bureau of Quarantine Clearance for outgoing vessels, bond quarantine clearance for post office clearance, request for customs clearance by shipping, the agency signed the customs inspector, confirms that the vessel in which he is assigned is ready to sail for a foreign port, the register and shipping articles if the vessel is of Philippine registry, the consular certificate of entry if the vessel is foreign registry when required. The stuffing and loading of cargoes, containerized instructions relative to stuffing of containerized export cargoes. Upon the issuance of the authority to load, the export declarations or permits duly processed at the Export Division or its equivalent office shall be forwarded the Customs Container Control Division or its equivalent office by exporters or shippers or customs representatives. Instructions relative to stuffing of containerized export cargoes. The notice of stuffing shall be submitted also at least 24 hours in advance indicating therein a kind of quantity to be stuffed, and the assigned of stuffing inspector shall not allow stuffing to export cargoes into the container van unless the duly processed export declaration or permits of the cargoes to be stuffed shall have been presented with the authority of load stamped thereon. The assigned stuffing inspector shall also supervise the actual stuffing, which shall be conducted in the presence of the representatives from all parties concerned. Upon completion of the conduct of stuffing, the assigned stuffing inspector shall affix his signature on the stuffing report sequence. And the duties and responsibilities of the stuffing inspector. First, the stuffing inspector shall supervise the actual stuffing of the place where it shall be conducted. He shall see to it that only those export cargoes with duly processed export declaration permits with authority to load shall be allowed to be stuffed into the container van, and he shall ascertain that the accompanying supporting documents attachment export declaration permits are complete and correspond to what has been declared, and he shall make sure that any discrepancy in the export declarations or permits as against the export cargoes to be stuffed is rectified accordingly. Upon completion of the stuffing, he shall ascertain that the doors of the container van are closed, locked, and properly sealed. In case of stopping at CYCFS outside customs zone, he shall issue a transfer note with cargo details. And upon the departure of the vessel to which the container van was loaded, he shall accomplish the inspector's certificate of lading. As to warehousing export shipment, he shall certify and sign the certificate of inspection and loading CIL and shall perform such other duties that may be assigned to him from time to time by his superiors. The inspector certificate of lading report of the stuffing inspector shall accomplish the inspector certificate of lading specifying the number of containers and description of goods appearing on each export declaration, duty requirements and overtime work conditions, all incidental expenses by the stopping inspector for the conduct of the stopping shall be for the account of the exporter, shipper, and CFS operator served. A stuffing of containers in customs-funded warehouse. When export cargoes are to be stocked in containers at shipper's customs-funded warehouse, the stuffing shall be supervised by the warehouseman. Upon completion of the stuffing, the warehouseman shall seal the container and take note on his transfer note the number of the container, the kind of quantity and its contents, and also state therein that the same is to be transferred from the customs-funded warehouse to the destined port of loading. Customs guard assigned to the customs-funded warehouse shall underguard the container until properly received by the Customs Container Control Division or its equivalent office loading inspector. The loading of bulk and break-bulk export cargoes. Loading of export cargo shall be effected only upon presentation of the customs inspector on board a duly approved loading permit. All cargoes at the ship side shall have appropriate permits for such loading. The customs inspector shall take note of names of lighters where the export cargoes are loaded, specifying the marks and numbers, and must see to it that what was loaded conforms to the number of packages appearing on the export entry. And loading of bulk cargoes at shipside shall be subject to weighing, and loading of containers, whether loaded or empty at shipside from lighters, should not be allowed because of the difficulty of checking the numbers and contents of loaded containers should verification required. Instructions of relative loading of containers and export cargoes. Loading inspector assigned to carrying vessel shall verify the ascertain that the export declaration of permit with container number indicated within have been duly processed at the Customs Container Control Division. The loading inspector shall not allow the loading of containerized export cargoes into his assigned vessel without the corresponding duly processed export declaration permits with the authority load stamped thereon. The loading inspector shall allow the loading only upon presentation of authority to load the following: export division for regular exports, special permits to load and visa shipments, export coordination division, export declaration processed by ECD for provincial loading. Office of Deputy Collector for Operations for Constructive Warehousing and Immediate Exportation and Foreign Transshipment Permits, and CCD for CPL-empty containers. The loading inspector shall make sure that the containers to be loaded are indeed intended to his assigned vessel and for that particular voyage of the vessel. Duties and responsibilities of the loading inspector. The loading inspector shall inspect and see to it that all containerized export cargoes are covered by duly processed export declaration. He also shall sign and submit the sequence of loading prepared by the shipping agent to the inspector, and he shall prepare and sign the inspector's certificate of loading and forward the same to the Export Division Processing Office. He shall certify also and sign certificate inspections and loading within 24 hours after the departure of the vessel, and he shall perform such other duties that may be assigned to him from time to time by his superiors. Inspector's certificate of loading report of loading inspector after completion of loading. The loading inspectors assigned the carrying vessel shall within 5 working days after the vessel's departure. Duty requirements and overtime working conditions. The district collector of customs may authorize overtime service when the interest of the service so requires. Bulk and break bulk loading export cargoes at dockside. Export permits covering export loading shall be presented to the customs inspector prior to actual loading, and the customs guard shall make tally of the actual packages or containers being loaded, checking the number of the packages, marks, and numbers against the export entry presented. And the customs inspector shall have no authority to inspect or open open the goods being loaded unless otherwise authorized and writing the collector of the customs. Loading of brick bulk and bulk export cargo. The customs inspector on board the vessel shall permit the loading of export cargo only upon presentation and authority to load issue export with the following Export Coordination Division for export declaration processed by ECD for provincial loading Office of the Deputy of Operations for constructive warehousing and immediate exportation and foreign transshipment permits. For all exportation loaded of shipside, the exporter will send to the customs inspector on board of the vessel through the patron of carrier note conduct, name of the vessel, name of the license number, number of bags, bales, cartons, name of the exporter, and number of the declaration. As it is being loaded, export cargo shall be checked by marks and numbers. When export cargo will on shore under customs supervision exported, no quantity in excess to the weight of declarations shall be received on board. Upon completion of lading, the customs inspector on board shall execute the inspector's certificate of lading in 5 copies. The loading of passenger baggage or crew personnel effect, the customs inspector on board shall not examine incoming passenger baggage. However, if no examiner is on hand during night time, Sundays and holidays, the customs inspector on board may inspect and pass the hand-carried personnel effect on incoming passengers. Section 17. The Customs Transit. Customs transit may overland transportation and shall be subject to such additional conditions as proper customs authorities may impose. There are 4 kinds of customs transit operation. First, from port of entry to another port of entry. Second, from port of entry to another port of entry, inland customs office, and from inland customs office to port of entry as an exit point for outright exportation, and from one port of entry to another port of entry. Transshipment. Section 18. A special transaction to the customs inspector relative to the discharge of transshipment cargo. First, goods from a foreign port may be transshipped directly from the carrying vessel to another vessel engaged in coastwise or foreign trade upon receipt. When a foreign transshipment permit authorizing the transfer of cargo from a foreign port is received by customs inspector on board the foreign vessel, he shall permit the discharge of the consignment. A bulk and brick bulk cargoes for foreign transshipment shall either be discharged directly into the receiving vessel, and containerized cargoes for foreign transshipment shall be discharged at the pier of eventual loading to the receiving vessel under the same conditions stated in Section 15A, item number 2 above. Instructions of relative foreign transshipment. After having been duly processed at the Deputy Collector of Operations, the foreign transshipment permit in case of containerized cargoes with supporting documents shall be coursed through the customs container control, and the loading inspectors assigned to the carrying vessel shall verify the corrections of the container numbers indicated in the permit prior to loading of transshipment cargoes on board of carrying vessel. Section 19. Transfer of imported cargo to outside CYCFS by CCCD. After having been duly processed at the Office of the Deputy Collector for Operations, the permit to transfer the outside CYCFS shall be coursed through the Customs Container Control Division or its equivalent office for posting of container numbers under eventual transfer. The permit to transfer to outside CYCFS shall then be transmitted to the Office of the Chief PID or its equivalent office. And that's all. Thank you.